Hi, I'm Jim Shaw, publisher of Lexington's Colonial Times Magazine and a board member here at LexMedia. And this is another segment in our 2017 series of Coffee with the Candidates. And by now, you'll probably know there are a lot of candidates running for the one-year seat for the school committee. I have the pleasure of sitting with one of them right here, Yury Maskovich. Did I say that right?
That's perfect.
Okay. Yeah. Who is a psychiatrist at the Bedford VA in the inpatient unit. You've lived here in Lexington for a couple of years. Grew up in Brooklyn, which is interesting because most people, I haven't talked to anybody of the candidates who had that sort of urban, that urban. And Brooklyn is a very interesting place. It's a melting pot.
Very diverse.
Yeah,
yes.
to grow up. You've got two children at Hastings.
Correct.
In the elementary level.
Correct.
And Hastings just happens to be one of the schools that it's, that they're focusing on for renovations and such. So with that, Yury, tell me, prior to starting this interview, we were having a little discussion about some of your concerns and why you're sort of uniquely positioned to come. And I've talked to a lot of candidates, but what you talked about is something I haven't heard yet. So what is it that drives you? Why are you interested in serving on this school committee?
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me.
Oh,
I really appreciate
to.
your time and for getting my message out.
We're happy to do it.
I was born in the former Soviet Union. I grew up in Brooklyn, as you mentioned. I came here as a small child. So given where I was born, where I grew up, how I was raised, it's unique, but it's not that unique given how Lexington is demographically.
Right.
But I'm also a parent. I have two children, like you mentioned. We moved to Lexington for the excellent schools. And I'm basically running, you asked me that question. Back in, I believe it was September, the school committee voted on trying to improve the social and emotional supports for the children in Lexington area. And as a psychiatrist, I believe I can work really well with the superintendent, with the school committee, with the town, the municipality, agencies that already exist to help with the social and emotional wellness. I'm hoping that we can maybe improve on the safeguards to identify the students that need help, get them the proper help.
You were talking a little bit before about the Youth Risk Behavior Survey.
Yes.
Which, this community has been doing for some time. It really gives them a glimpse as to not just the stress, but the lengths and the places kids go to relieve that stress. It's very concerning. And I know that's what drives a lot of what you're talking about.
Yes. So the survey that I saw was, I believe it was 2013. I didn't know there was another one after that. But some of the numbers that stand out was 55 students in the survey admitted to attempting suicide within a 12-month period at least once. I believe it was 247 that actually admitted to contemplating suicide. A majority of students reported an excessive amount of stress in the community. Sorry, not in the community, due to classes, due to the stress in the classroom. So there are aspects that obviously we can help. The key is you want to get to the students early on. You want to be able to teach them and help them through their tough times where they don't develop patterns or habits that are potentially deadly, whether it's substance use, whether it's suicide, things like that. We want our kids to be obviously resilient, as independent as possible as adults. That's what we all hope for, right?
Right. How do you approach that? I mean, like, as a professional, obviously you don't have all the answers, but you're probably a little bit more prepared to talk about it than most. Obviously, it's an issue of great importance to you. So, it's been something that the schools and the administration and the schools have been dealing with for a while. What might you suggest in terms of an avenue or a course of action?
One of the things that I read was there was a ad hoc committee that did a tremendous study and an incredible amount of work about incorporating not only the school but also the community and the town and the agencies involved. So I think if we use that as a basis for starting the conversation and improving in those connections, I could serve as a liaison potentially to some of these agencies, to the school committee. Obviously, the more people that talk about it, the more people involved, the more safeguards in place, the better everybody is.
I think you have to recognize there's a problem, and you have to be willing to address it and not run from it or hide from it.
Exactly.
Because kids are really suffering. I mean, this is real.
This is definitely real.
Yeah.
And
it's not all about homework. I mean, the stress of homework and the class and all of that, but it's also, there's a lot of like social engagement. People they're growing up and they're, trying to keep up with the Joneses, if you will. The haves and the have-nots, and people feel compelled to, be like the other kids, and it's not just kids are getting too much homework. I mean, I think there's a lot to it. I think that the kids are being pushed to limits academically, and it might even be themselves who are pushing. The pushing may come from families. It may come from the schools. There are a certain set of expectations, MCAS results, all of this stuff, But obviously
bullying is another.
Bullying. Yeah. I mean, but it's all real, and it's got to be dealt with. And I think you're probably, it's as important as any other issue, I think.
I agree. I mean, a nearby town, Acton. I work with a nurse at the VA. She mentioned there were 3 suicides within the last few months at the beginning of the year, one of which was a 10-year-old little boy. And
wow.
It's things like that that really scare you, as a parent.
Absolutely. Well, there are a lot of issues, mental health, notwithstanding. We have, there are a lot of things that are going on. Even if you're focusing on these types of issues, there are a lot of other things. The role of a school committee person.
Absolutely.
We've got 4 major departures, retirements coming up. We've got the arts, the music director is retiring. The high school principal just announced yesterday she's retiring, Laura Lassa. Human resources director. So it's important, to work collaboratively with other administrators and teachers to find the right people for these positions. It's almost a key time to do it, because you want to make sure, particularly at the high school level, that you've got for an issue of importance like you're talking about, making sure you've got somebody who's open-minded and compassionate about that. So do you play, if you're elected to the school committee, do you play an active role in searching out for the right candidate?
Absolutely. If it's a part of the job, absolutely. As a psychiatrist, we are trained to work with others, whether it's other fields, other, families. And of course, I would love to be involved in that search. These are big losses. I didn't know.
Yeah. It's huge. Yeah. We, all across the town of Lexington, we've just lost our deputy town manager to retirement. The finance director, the deputy assistant town manager for finance and comptroller. So yeah, there are a lot of changes taking place. But it kind of leads me to another question too. We've got all these capital needs.
Yes.
High school, Hastings. You have 2 children in Hastings, and there's talk about working over there. There's talk about the possibility of needing to add a 7th elementary school. Have you given some thought to the needs of capital improvements, and then balancing it out with the needs of other parts of the community, like public safety and stuff? So maybe you could comment on that a little bit.
Sure. I was reading the recent report by I believe it was the superintendent to the school committee regarding some projects. I believe in the next few years there is some potential, there is some growth that's known, and I believe we're okay for the next few years. But as far as long-term wise, we obviously are going to need potentially more building projects. But I think we're okay for the next at least handful of years, including the high school.
Well, the high school, I think there's more, with the class sizes growing the way they are, I think it's probably sooner than that. So it's, because the class sizes aren't getting larger. If you're looking at the class sizes at the middle school, that means in just a couple of years, the class sizes at the high school. So, 10 years may be too far down the road, but it's important that it's recognized and dealt with. I
Absolutely.
think. And you're open-minded to that.
Absolutely. I mean, I'd love to learn all the variables involved before obviously I comment on what I believe is the best approach is.
Right.
But I don't know enough about the topic
Right.
to comment. But I did notice that they are planning on expanding, at least over the next few years. So I think we're okay, at least temporarily. So we're at the point of bridging the gap, but obviously we're going to have major issues probably down the road, which we do need to address.
Something I haven't talked about with some of the other candidates that were coming through, and this may be something, school spirit. People, the people may say, "Oh, that's silly." Well, when people feel strongly about something and they identify strongly with it, they tend to, be more respectful of the environment. In other words, if people feel good about their experiences in Lexington schools, and I'm kind of talking about the high school, although there are a lot of organized sports at the middle school level. When they feel good about their experiences, I think it reflects and impacts the experience, the overall experience that they're having. So when you talk about solid mental health and having a good solid footing,
Absolutely.
Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. If there's if the mental and emotional well-being is in a good place, you're going to have overall a better experience. For these students, they're gonna develop with more mature defense mechanisms. They're gonna be able to cope with things, be much more resilient, and obviously be a bigger part of the community and be more involved. I believe. I agree with you. And they're gonna be obviously better students, most likely.
Right.
Yeah.
So now, your involvement. Are you involved at all at the
VA?
at the Hastings with the kids so far? Have you been? Are you involved with the PTA or?
No, I have not been involved with the PTA. No, but that is something that I hope to do. As I live here longer.
Okay. You're. So I guess one of the things I've been asking every candidate is, March 6th is coming. It's not that far away. You've got a small window of opportunity to kind of get the word out. And it's important that you differentiate yourself from the other candidates. So I guess in a nutshell, why do I vote for Yury?
I think I bring a unique perspective. I think professionally, being a psychiatrist, given what I do on a daily basis, I am keenly aware of a lot of the issues, and I'm very passionate about the town and working with the various players of a lot of the problems. I hope to continue the excellent tradition of the academics of the school system, but I also want to help the children become more resilient and more able to cope with the stressors of their future.
Right. And working with Dr. Tchaikovsky, our superintendent, you see yourself as a person who's open-minded and willing to work with others?
Absolutely. I've always been that way.
Yeah. Team player is kind of an important thing.
Absolutely.
Particularly if you've got some ideas, and you may have your own ideas, but oftentimes other people on the other side of the table. When I say the other side of the table, I don't mean opposition. I'm just because it's a big table.
There's always a gray area.
Yeah, and it's important. I think that folks work together. So collaboration is an important thing, and I think in your business too, being able to work together and being cohesive, sort of being on the same page. That sounds like something that would be a priority for you.
Absolutely. I think that we also serve as role models for the students and the rest of the community as leaders in the community. So I believe absolutely it's imperative that we do that.
Great. Well, we're pretty much winding down. I think we've covered a lot in terms of stress and the expanding student enrollment and all of that. Is there anything off the top of your head that you think you'd like to want to clarify or just put out there?
Sure. One of the things, given that I wasn't born in this country, the current demographics of Lexington, I believe that culturally, we should start an open discussion on mental health and just offer to everybody in the town an opportunity to get the help that they need, whether it's mental health or really whatever's going on. As a community, I think we could be stronger together. I think that we all want the best for each other and our schools, and I want to be a part of it.
I wish you the very best, and I hope it works out for you.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you for
so
having
much,
me. I
Yury.
really appreciate your time.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.